Hello, YouTube coin collectors and stackers. Well, we got another one of those hotel buying events come into town. Before we get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. So, first guys that came to town were these guys. What did they pay me? Link below. Then we did these guys. These were the worst of the whole bunch. This was like crazy town. Link below if you want to see what they offered me. Then I just got this one in the mail the other day. So there were some things about this one that got my attention. I'm going to zoom in on this one here. We pay $169.89 for gold per gram, and they pay more for branded jewelry. So I was very motivated by that, and you'll see in a moment why. And then I also was motivated by the fact that we buy coin. So I was going to bring them one coin. Then I decided to bring them more than one coin. And we can see they got some Morgan dollars, some bars here, an American Silver Eagle. There's more on the back. So I want you to keep that number in mind. $169.89, and the fact that they buy coin and this specific coin. So if you've watched my other videos, you'll see that I have always brought slabbed coins. Why would I bring slab coins? I think slab coins are easy to look up in Gray Sheet. We can look at the wholesale. We can look at the consumer price guide. There could be some arguments on, whether that's a guideline or that's, something we need to, follow to the letter, but we still can look at and reference a third-party guide for pricing, and everything's standardized. So I can, we're not arguing over grade. And I get it, people crack stuff out of slabs all the time and regrade them, and maybe have disagreements with what the grade on the slab is. But overall, right, from a standpoint of shopping somebody, slab coins make that really easy. But this time, I decided to mix it up, and this is what I always do. I always bring down a PCGS holder like this. So it looks legit. I always say, hey, it's my dad's stuff. He's got a whole bunch of this stuff. And if we get a good price on it, I'll bring all the rest down. He's got like 5 or 6 of these things. So what did I bring them this time? I brought them a tube of Silver Eagles, a tube of Morgan and Peace dollars with a surprise in there. I got a little surprise in there. If you watch one of my videos, you'll maybe guess what it is. I brought 3 slabbed coins. A 1916D, one of my favorite ones to bring to these events. I stuck in the dime realm. If you watched my video yesterday, I'll post the link below. This brand new nice Proof 62 seated dime. I also brought this gorgeous Proof dime, Proof Mercury dime, 38, Proof 66. And lastly, staying in the dime realm, I brought this nice 31D and a 65, so semi-key date coin. So I brought those. I also brought some gold. Remember, it says, what do we pay for 1 gram of gold? You guys remember? Well, if you don't remember, it's $169.89. So I brought them a gram of gold. Funny story about that. And I also brought this rather attractive, moving the light a little bit, this rather attractive half eagle. You can see here. So let me zoom in so you can really see it. This is a nice coin. It's a nice, attractive half eagle. It's, circulated, but never been messed with. Got a nice cartwheel. So it's a pretty coin. I don't expect to get more than melt for it, but it's a pretty coin nonetheless. So that's what I took with me down there. So let's review some of the melts today. Today is, I think it's the 8th. Yeah, something like the 8th of December, 2025. Something like that. Good enough for government work. So American Silver Eagles, which I have a tube of them here. These are melting today for $58.02 according to Kitco, which I go to them because they tend to be a little lower on price, so I can give these guys the benefit of the doubt. And I brought down a tube of Morgan and Peace dollars, and I mentioned there's a surprise in here, little surprisey surprise, and we'll see if they caught that surprise or not. This is really tight in here. I had the trouble when I was down there too. So there's all these Morgan and Peace dollars. Brought those down there, and I brought down the slabs and the gold. Okay, so these Morgan and Peace dollars are melting for about $44.83. If you're going to go to Money Metals or somewhere, Money Metals is paying like $36 for Peace dollars and $37 for Morgan dollars. Money Metals is paying $56 for these Silver Eagles. These gold coins today, this $5 gold coin melts for around $1,013. You might be able to sell this to Money Metals for $9.76 when I looked it up. And a gram of gold, this little gram gold bar here, melts for $133.96. and Money Metals will buy this from you for $128.60. So I'll come back and we'll review those at the end, and we get into what did they actually offer me for these things. So let's go through the process. So I drive down there, and I pull up to the hotel, and there's valet parking. You know, of all the hotels, you know, around where I live, you pick one with only valet parking. So I asked the valets, you know, I'm here for the buying event. They don't know what I'm talking about. So they don't know what to charge me for the valet. So they have to go in and talk to the front desk. So I'm waiting. One of the valets finally comes out, and he's like, well, I don't know, you know, we'll just figure it out when you get out here. It's probably going to be like $5. Great. So, okay, I'll give him the keys, run in there, and there's no signs anywhere. The front desk people are busy with other guests. So I start wandering around the hotel, trying to figure out where this place is. So I wander up to the second floor, because the valet said, well, there might be something going on the second floor. Wander up there's nothing going on. But I see I look up, and I can see on the third floor, there's these guys in this room up there through the window. So I go up to the third floor, and there's the sign. So I walk in. I'm the first one there. You know, they open at 10:30 in the morning. I'm wandering in at noon, and I'm the first one there. They have some tables set up right in the middle, big table, covered with predominantly like silver serving pieces, flatware, trays, that kind of stuff, like all sterling silver type of stuff. I look around and I see a scale. I don't see a sigma. I don't see anything like that. I sit down with the guy, and here comes my dog with his new name tag on, rattling around. And I see he's got the chemical kit. That's why I have this out. So he's got this on his desk, but he's got nothing else for verifying anything other than, you know, this kind of scratch kit, and no sigma, as I mentioned. So I'm lit there. I'm like, okay. He goes, well, what do you have? I take the cover off and kind of put everything out like you see here. And he looks at the slab coins. He kind of looks at them, picks them up, looks at them for a minute. He's kind of going, because he's a little befuddled by the whole thing. And he hands them back to me, and he says, you need to take these to a coin dealer. I can't buy these from you. I don't know how to price them up. So, hey, you know what? I'll give him a check mark there. Good, good on him. Good for him. That was the right thing to do. He didn't know what they were. He advised me to take them to a coin dealer. So I'm going, hey, you know what? That's actually a pretty good sign that these guys might be a little more legit than the first two. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due. So he dumps the eagles out, and he starts doing this. He starts kind of taking them and going like stacks, and another stack, and another stack, and another stack. And then he's doing this. And this is going on and on for probably, time's a funny thing, but it felt like forever. He just he's looking at his phone and he's doing this. And, counting and stacking and counting and stacking. And then he's like, I need to take one of these and weigh it. So I got my little scale here. So he takes one, across the room, because he doesn't have a scale at his station, throws it on the scale. I don't know what it says. You can see right there it says 30. Well, it's kind of hard with the light, but 31.6. So that's about what it should weigh. He comes back, starts doing this again. And then he's like, well, what do you want for these? And I said, well, I just want to know what they're worth. And so he's thinking about it, and he's like, well, I need to weigh a couple of these. So now he's taking the piece dollars. He's kind of laying them all out. And he finds this one here, and he holds it up. Let me show you this one. I threw this one in here on purpose. This is a piece dollar that you'd be very, very tempted to submit to see if you could get a PO1 on, because there are people that collect those. I've looked into it, and I believe that this wouldn't even qualify for a PO1. I've never seen I found this in just a junk bin one day. I had to have it because it's by far the worst piece dollar I've ever seen, the most circulated piece dollar I've ever seen in my life. I'm guessing it spent a lot of time in slot machines in Vegas. It's kind of the only thing that would make sense. But he hands it back to me, and he says, you might want to take this one. Some people like these really worn out ones. It could be more valuable. You might want to take that to a coin dealer. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, he knows stuff about that. Maybe he knows about those PO1 people that collect those things. And so let me get kind of this stuff out of the way. So he is laying these out. So let me quickly lay out the piece dollars here so we can see them. Because, again, I mentioned I have some surprises hidden in here. So he's laying them all out and looking at them. And he takes the Morgan dollars, of which there should be 4. Where's the other one? There's 3 here. There's the other one. So put all the piece dollars together. We'll put the Morgan dollars together down here. Now, why would I be concerned about the Morgan dollar? So we'll get back to that in a moment. But he goes, I need to weigh a couple of these. So he takes one Morgan dollar at random, one peace dollar at random, brings them over to the scale, and he weighs them. Again, I can't see what he's doing, but here's the thing about this. I put 2 fake Morgan dollars in here. And just to show you they're fake, here's the Sigma. We'll throw the first one on the Sigma. That one's fake. That one's fake. So I had thrown just to see if they would catch it. And again, I have another video, I'll post a link below, where I asked, should I actually do this? Should I try to sell them fake Morgan dollars? Well, one of my viewers suggested, well, why don't you just see if they can catch it? So I said, okay, game on, let's do that. So he had 50-50 chances. I have 2 real Morgan dollars, 2 fake Morgan dollars, 50-50 chances. He actually picks the real Morgan dollar to weigh with the peace dollar. God, imagine those odds. So he does that. He comes back, starts fiddling with the coins again. So now he takes these and stacks them back up into a couple of piles, just like these ones. And he's doing the same thing. He's sort of going, and I think he's listening. I think that's why he's doing this, right? Because we know that when silver has its own sound, you can hear it rattling around here. But he's stacking them up, and he's fiddling with them, looking at his phone, doing all of this stuff. And then he goes, and again, this is like taking forever. I'm looking at him going, what is going on here? What is taking this guy so long? So then he goes, well, I got to go weigh all of these. So he takes all of the Morgan and peace dollars over to the scale. Now, I'm thinking, okay, now he's going to catch the fake one, right? He's going to absolutely catch the fake one now. Now, what does he do? He puts all of them like this. So you can see that's 499.3 grams. So he throws them all on the scale all at once. Now, I believe he's trying to calculate the silver weight, right? And but he does the whole thing, and he comes back, and I'm like, is there a problem with those? And he goes, well, these are just different than these. Well, I said, well, what do you mean? How so? How are they different? He says, well, these are silver, and these are also silver, but they're less silver. I said, well, what do you mean by less silver? Well, he couldn't really explain to me. He didn't say, well, those are 90% silver or anything like this. He just said to me, well, I have to be careful. You know, I've made mistakes and I've learned my lesson. So I said, well, you haven't seen too many of these, huh? You don't see too many of these coming through? He goes, oh, no, I see them all the time. They just don't have as much silver, so it takes me a little longer to calculate it. Now, if you're watching this channel, you're probably someone who could almost do this math in your head. However, he's fumbling. He keeps doing this. I mean, he must have done this 100 times, you know. So there's this other lengthy delay, and he starts writing some numbers down. So I'm about to share some of those numbers with you. First, he does the peace dollars. Now, he's trying to do it in a way that I can't see him doing it, but I can see he kind of writes, you know, $1, you know, I'm guessing for the $1 coins, and he writes a number next to that. Then he writes Eagle, and he writes a number next to that. Then he writes G, and he writes a number next to that. And he goes, well, you know, these are easy. These are hard because they're not really all silver, but they're less silver. But these are easy. This gold is easy. So he writes the numbers down. So what are the numbers? And how does it compare to the other places that I've gone and done? So, you know, we're old-fashioned on this channel. So here are the numbers. So your peace and Morgan dollars melt today. This is the beginning of December 2025. I believe it's the 8th. Melt for $8.96.60. If I go to Money Metals or a wholesaler like that, they will buy them back from you for $721.80. You know, obviously I did the math. There's 20 Morgans and peace dollars. Actually, he had 19 in here because he took the slick one out. And of course, he didn't know that 2 of them were fake. 2 of the Morgans were fake, and he missed that. So he offered me $401 for all of those, which is 44% back a melt, assuming the 2 fake ones were real. Then we have the Silver Eagles. Those melt for $11.60.40. Money Metals would buy those from you today for $1,126.40. They offered me $5.56 or 48% back a melt, which is a little bit better than the peace dollars and Morgans, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because 90% is getting kind of a steeper discount on it. Then we have the gold. Those 2 gold coins, the gold coin, the gram, would melt for $11.46.98. Money Metals would buy those from you today for $11.05 and 19 cents. He offered me 300 or 26% of melt. The ones he said were easy. Yeah, real easy, really easy to kind of lowball me and rip me off. So that was the worst one, right? The Eagles being the best. So here's your totals. So this stuff melts for $32.03 and 38 cents. Wholesales, Money Metals, again, that's where I got this number from, $29.53 and 39 cents. And they do not sponsor this channel in any way. I just find they're a useful place to go and check this stuff. And they offered me $1,257, and that's 40% of the melt value. So to me, that's obviously pretty low. But how does this compare to some of these other guys, right? How does it compare to these guys and whoops, I'm so clumsy sometimes. And these guys, well, they are definitely the best payers. We got nowhere near this 169.89, right? Because I had way more than 1 gram of gold, and I basically got like little more than 2.5 times this for way more than that many grams in gold, right? So we did get nowhere near the advertised price for that, but we expected that. But on how do they compare to these other guys? Well, number 2, if you've watched the videos, number 2 was the worst, like the most embarrassing, worst mess of a thing I've ever seen in my life. They were the craziest. On a percentage basis, they were 33% higher than number 1. Again, the videos will be below. So, they were actually the best payer of the 3, believe it or not. And they gave me back the slab coins, and said, we can't price these. We don't know what to do with these. Take them to a coin shop. So I'll give them props for that as well. So of the 3, if I had to sell to anybody, and these were the only 3 options, and I was absolutely desperate to sell this stuff, I would do it with these guys. But fortunately, we all know that we have a lot more options out there in the world, legitimate coin shops, legitimate gold dealers, even legitimate pawn shops. Yes, there are legitimate, honest pawn shops as well. So there's other places that would pay you a hell of a lot more than these guys. But again, if these were the only 3 options on earth, I would sell to these guys. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you see these flyers coming around in your area, you know somebody that has one, please, send them the video, get the word out about these folks. Protect your relatives, your older relatives that might have this stuff, that they don't know what to do with it. Help your relatives that may need the extra cash to direct them to a place where they would actually get the most value for their coin collections and things like that. Appreciate you guys, and I'll be back again soon later this week with a PCGS unboxing, some really cool grades I got back earlier today. Thank you. Morgan out.